I'm trying to think of God, what was that thing they always said in Back to the Future? That
Oh God.
it's not shenanigans. It doesn't matter. I have no idea what I've been talking. Well, friends, welcome to your work friends. We're two HR ladies. I'm Francesca,
I'm Mel.
and we're here to make work more human and give you the best resources. And today we're talking headlines. Mel, what are you reading in the news this week about work?
Yeah, AI is everywhere. So, uh, in Bloomberg this week, they had an article that caught my eye. The article headline is Wall Street bosses turn to AI to help write performance reviews.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, right.
And as two HR ladies who are on a mission to make HR more human, caught my eye immediately. I'm going to pause before I get into the context here and just, what's your initial reaction to that headline?
I get a little nervous when we think about automating something that should be deeply personal and deeply human, quite
Yeah,
honestly. And performance reviews, when we think about even very conservative traditional performance management, which is like you have a mid-year review and you have a year-end review, those things should be super personalized,
right.
not
Agree.
uh not chat GPT, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you here. Listen, my eyebrow raised just a tad. I'm going to get into the meat. Wall Street has been leveraging AI for clients for some time. I don't know about you, but I've been leveraging AI on my 401ks and things like that to give me reports that, of course, it's great. And they're currently working on looking at AI for workplace productivity and efficiencies. Again, agree. I think
Absolutely
every
should.
company should
Absolutely should.
be
Yeah.
taking a look at this, right? Workday, which is one of the largest HR software providers in the market today, recently rolled out software which relies on AI to perform traditional HR tasks like writing job descriptions. But included in that package was also software that helps write performance reviews. And in the article, the Workday co-CEO, Carl Eschenbach, noted that banks have expressed a lot of interest in leveraging the software to streamline operations and to cut costs. Caught my eye. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll read further here. The example that Eschenbach provided is primarily a task that traditionally today falls on hiring managers, talent acquisition, to streamline the writing of job descriptions. So, to quote specifically in the article, he said, you have 100 employees and it takes 7 hours to write job descriptions for each employee, which equates to 700 hours. With the AI software, that time is now cut to 2 minutes per description. I read that and thought, okay, good example of usefulness
Yeah, it
and a
is.
great way to,
It's a great
yeah,
example. That's where it makes sense. Yeah.
right. Great way to streamline this activity, save time. However, my personal opinion on this is I think he's oversimplifying things just a smidge. Here's my thoughts. AI is super powerful. It's a great tool for every professional, but you're never going to cut the human component need out of the process. It's 100% going to be needed to do things like review things for
Yeah.
bias, for error. Um, that's not always going to work with the software. You're going to need a
No.
human component. There are gray areas that require human capabilities to perform the job. So, although it might cut quote unquote draft time for job descriptions down to 2 minutes, I do think that human review process is going to still be needed. And
Yeah.
they're not really taking those things into account with some of those statements.
Yeah.
I'll jump to performance reviews in a second, but I'm going to pause. Thoughts? Thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
to me, the start of a relationship with an employee starts, right? It starts at that job description. And one of the things we see as a failure point sometimes in TA or of the hiring manager is not really being thoughtful with your job description. What are you actually needing someone to do? What are the daily tasks? What do you actually need people to accomplish within the first 60, 90 year, whatever? And that takes some thought, right? And
Right.
we've been doing stock job descriptions in HR for a long time. That's not anything necessarily new. But what I see people doing a lot is not reviewing them thoroughly, not
Mhm.
customizing them to what the job truly is, and not taking the time to do that. And if you do that, that's way more than 2 minutes. Yes, the administrative piece of it and getting to that stack, got it. But again, you want to make sure that that job description, that entry point of that relationship is as accurate as possible. And that takes a human reviewer, and it takes longer than 2 minutes for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Super fair on the draft piece.
Yeah, super fair.
All right, I'm going to jump into where they started talking about performance reviews because, like you, I think performance is personal. So this sounded really murky to me. So in the
Well, it's
article,
can I say
oh,
something
sorry, go
too?
ahead. Yeah,
No,
of
no, no.
course.
It's personal. It's also your compensation, your bonus, and your
Correct.
promotions are predicated on performance management too. So it is very important.
100%.
Yeah.
And I
Sorry.
think so. No, don't apologize. It's this. I am full in agreement with you here. In the article, a study by the advisory firm Corporate Executive Board found that the average manager spent 210 hours doing employee reviews each year. And with AI, banks are hoping to cut this down significantly. I had a couple immediate thoughts here when I read that number
Yeah.
of 210. One, I'm interested to learn what's included in that 210 hours as people leaders. You and I both know performance should be discussed in real time.
Real
And
time.
hopefully, yeah, and there's no surprises. Mid-year, year end, A, there's no surprises. And B, it's really a summary of everything you've already discussed. So I'm curious about what's in that 210 hours of prep for summarizing that for your people.
Yeah.
That seems excessive to me.
It
What are your
seems
thoughts?
excessive too. Let's say because most performance review management processes, they'll have like a goal setting conversation where what do you need to achieve, right? Let's agree on that and document it. That could be conversation one, very traditional. Conversation two is halfway through the year, how are you doing? Conversation three would be year end, how did you do? If it takes you 5 weeks and some change to get through all of those conversations, that it seems excessive to me.
Yeah. Or it's a people leader who might be overloaded. Maybe they're
Yeah.
responsible for too many people in their performance. And so, if organizations are looking to cut down the time because the average spend is 210 hours per people leader, I I think they have to probably get in and do a deeper dive. How do they want to, what are other ways they can address this in addition to leveraging AI for some things, right? But maybe it's reading a submission of performance reviews across for that person and summarizing the key points for a people leader to read through. What were some of the trends? But I still think it's going to be the responsibility of that people leader to be collecting that data in real time throughout the year and taking a look at all of the data and make sure it lines up.
Yeah.
Number two for me is performance is personal. As you mentioned, I think there's a risk here to really lose trust with the employee because it impacts things like livelihood, to your
Mm-hmm.
point, compensation, bonus. Are employees going to trust that their reviews are fair if it's a machine that's spitting it out for them and there's not a human component? So, I think sure there are opportunities to cut down time, but I think the process overall is that's my point three. Really, is the process overall is a bit antiquated, and we can probably revisit the performance management process to see what other efficiencies might we make, and is this formal mid-year, year-end really valuable if it's happening in real time throughout the year.
The other thing I think about too, similar to the job description comment, is feedback. The more context you can give in feedback, um, the better. And so much
Agreed.
around, right, really great performance feedback is based on context, which most AI won't have because
Right.
it's based on observation. It's based on what had happened. It's on the storytelling, right? Yeah, the feedback will end up probably being very diluted and not effective, quite honestly, not even useful if
Right.
the context is missing. The other thing I think about too is if you're viewing your performance management process as administrative, you don't have a
Oh,
performance management process, right?
correct. Yeah, that's wrong designation. It is not an administrative task.
Yeah, like we're missing the forest through the trees, right? If you really want people to have really great development and to know how they're doing, then it's not administrative.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
Eschenbach closed things out in this article that was really to call out you're not going to need nearly as many heads if certain pieces of code can be written 80% by AI. And the promise of AI is to drive productivity gains. And if you're getting productivity gains out of your existing workforce, you'll need less workers. I'm going to end this with a yes and here.
Hmm?
Yes, we may have a need for less workers in certain areas with AI efficiencies, but this is all going to come down to your systems and your processes. And a lot of these have some really very human components to them, to the work, and should continue to have that human component. And it's one thing to use AI to write code or to perform data analysis on thousands of lines from Excel, but it's entirely another to leverage this for what we would consider a human task, not an administrative one that can be solved through AI. So I definitely think there can be major improvements to performance management processes, to productivity overall, but personally, performance review writing, it's a no for me right now.
Yeah,
It's a no
it's a
for
no.
me.
It's a
Yeah.
no. It's an absolute, yeah. It's a no.
Yeah.
It's a no. Yeah.
What caught your eye this week?
All right. Pensions, baby. Pensions. So New York Times wrote a great article this week about pensions making a comeback, and we'll post both of these articles in our show notes. For those of you that may not know what a pension is, because they're not really big in the private sector. We see pensions a lot in the public sector, but let me start with what a pension is. It's a retirement fund. To most people, a pension's a retirement arrangement between your employer. They put a regular payment into an account until the day you retire and for as long as you live. And the amount of your pension is usually dependent on how long you worked at an employer and your salary. And for the most part, the pension was an incentive for you to stay at the company, right? We're going to incent your loyalty by basically tying this retirement fund to your employment here. Cool.
Okay.
In the private sector, 1 in 10 people have pensions, 1 in 10, as opposed to a 401k, which we see a lot of, which is about 5 in 10.
Okay.
So not as many people, right? So far. Do you have a pension,
I do. I have
Mel?
a pension
Ooh,
from an old employer.
nice.
So yeah, it's good. It's an oldie but a goodie. I like
An
it.
oldie but goodie. Yeah, it's one of those things. I remember working for an employer that had a pension, and just thinking like, what?
Yeah, I
What
know.
do you-
I thought of my papa. I was like, oh, I think he had a pension, but yeah,
Yeah, listen. I mean, pensions are a big thing. They're a big thing, and when you get to the age of retirement, right? Having an additional income stream to, if you have a 401k, if you have some savings. I have zero idea if Social Security will even be there by the
it's
time we
truly,
retire, but any revenue stream is good for retirement.
yeah.
Here's the thing that really caught my eye is IBM. So IBM is bringing back the pension, and they're doing things a little bit differently. Let me walk you through this. IBM
Okay.
is still going to offer a 401k.
Okay.
Okay, that's not going away. But what they're doing is they're taking what they used to match. So most employers, right, have what they call a 401k match. Well, they'll take a percentage of your match and invest it for you. It's basically free money that the employer is saying, here, we're going to dump some change into your 401k for you, right?
Okay.
So they're taking that 5% match of each worker's pay and putting it into what they're calling a retirement benefit account, or for those technical sticklers, a defined benefit instrument. They're basically giving people a pension.
Okay.
So, but this is different than your traditional pensions, and let me tell you how.
Wait. Before you
Yeah.
do, can I ask
Yeah.
a dumb question?
It's not going to be a dumb question because I had to Google some of this. Yeah.
Okay. Did are they allowing employees choice? Like you can choose either to get the match or the match goes to a pension?
No, what
Okay.
the article is stating is that they are taking what they would have done in the match and contributing it to this retirement benefit account. So they will not be matching the 401k,
Okay. Okay.
offering it, but just not matching it. So it seems like basically that 5% bucket match is going all over to this pension now.
Okay. I
Yeah.
That is a little sus to me.
Ooh, why?
I just think,
Why?
well, okay, hear me
I
out.
love
Hear me
sus.
out.
By the way, I just learned that in my day, kids, it was suspect, and now it's sus, and I love sus. I'm a big fan of the sus. Go
Hanging
ahead.
out
No,
with too
sorry.
many young family members. So
Sus.
okay. I
Yeah.
love the concept of bringing back the pension. I think that's so smart, especially you remember being 20 and like rubbing two nickels together to
Yep.
like,
Thousand
I
percent.
don't
Yeah.
know, buy
Like I'm gonna
shampoo.
put $2 or $5 of gas in the car
Just like
because
bartering with yourself, like I'll eat ramen for 2 weeks. Yeah,
yeah,
sure. Okay.
yeah,
Um, Especially for, more junior level folks with that may not have the salary or the extra income to dedicate to a 401k, which is entirely upfront contribution from an employee, right? I
yeah,
100% love this option. The risk is on the employer. They're doing all the investment for you. No brainer. You don't even have to think about it. You have something there. The fact that they're vesting right away, that they can take it with them, in all good things.
yeah,
Um, but I think, like you should give people choice. People are in different journeys within their career, and the person I am now would make different choices than the person I was when I was 20. So in my 20s, as you know, the earlier you can start investing, the better, because everything grows over time, exponentially more the earlier
yeah.
you start investing. But if I'm in my mid 40s, I might say, I'd rather have the match. I love what they're doing. I would love if they gave their employees choice, because I wonder how people feel about no longer having that match from their employer if they are investing into their 401k.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting question. It's a really
Yeah.
interesting question. And just like everything with benefits, it really depends on your stage in life, right?
Right.
But I do love that idea of there's no risk to the employee here, quite
Right.
honestly,
Agree.
that the employer is doing this for you. And to your very good point, what is a little different about this one is that employees can take it when they leave. They will have it. So again, I'm really taken with it. I like the idea of varietals in just like wine, a
Yeah.
wine varietals in your retirement time. But I like this. I like this a lot. I love your
Agree.
idea though of offering choice. I think the more we can see that from benefit packages and even down to the financials, huge. And I think this is something to watch. And two things to leave on here. We will be seeing more about pensions. The article was noting that Indeed, obviously the job board site, was reporting that employees are searching for companies with pensions
Yeah.
more and more. It's increased 12% over the last 3 years. We saw the United Auto Workers add pensions into their negotiations last round. They want to bring those pensions back. It's something of value to them. And this piece was very interesting to me, which was Glassdoor found employers with pensions had consistently higher ratings than those that didn't.
Oh,
So
I
those
believe it.
that didn't had an average of 4.21, those that did had a 4.37. So statistically significant. And there's maybe something there.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, think about it. It's more, especially in lean times, we're in the economic times today, right? If you even put a pause on your 401k, but knew that your employer was still contributing to a pension on your behalf, you feel a lot more comfortable potentially pausing on your contribution to your 401k because something is still happening for you. And
Yeah.
then personally in your own paycheck, you get more money each time you are paid because you're not doing that 401k contribution. So it gives you that flexibility. I 100% love the idea of bringing this back.
I do too. I do
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Woo.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
exciting,
So
exciting.
I'm a fan of thinking about things a little bit differently. And sometimes that means going back to the future and revisiting some of these things that used to work for us in the past.
Just
But
hoverboard our way into a pension plan.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm trying to think of God, what was that thing they always said in Back to the Future? That
Oh God.
it's not shenanigans. It doesn't matter. I have no idea what like the doc. What is this? It doesn't matter. I'm like awful at
My
movie
God.
quotes, by the way. Like, just okay. We're gonna go ahead and end the pod. Okay, so here we go. Those were our headlines today. Very
Yeah.
exciting to look at. Mel,
Yeah.
coming back next week, right? More headlines.
We will come back next week with more headlines because there's always something in the news about work. So
Yeah,
looking forward to bringing that. I don't know, a lot of good discussion, really interesting topics. So
no
more to come.
kidding. All right, thanks, friends.
Thank you, friends.